Okay, we are live. Gonna let it breathe here, baby, just for a moment. Hope everyone's had a great Monday. We just gotta connect these Facebooks and Instagrams, and we're gonna be rocking. We're gonna be rolling, and it looks like we're good. Welcome in, everybody. Mile High Huddle podcast. I'm your host, Chad Jensen, and with me is my fellow football priest. You know him, you love him, Zack Kelberman. And Zack, you and I spoke on the phone today. So you know this is true. I'm going to do everything I can to not cough everybody's ear off. Like this cough is killing me. No drop will sate the cough urge. I don't know what it is, but you might see me doing a lot more muting and stuff, and I'll go like this so it doesn't look weird. But coughs are going to come. I'm just not going to do it in the mic. But how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. From what I can tell, you're on the up and up a little, though, Chad. I'm happy to hear that. It's sounding like it's getting out of your system, literally and figuratively. It's that time of year. I know what it's like, but I'm always happy to be potting next to you, virtually.
Same here, brother. Same here. And it's great to be with all of you tonight. Shouts to the first in the chat, David Youngkin. Yeah, we're going to talk about T Higgins, that is. Papa Bear jumping in with the super early. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Says, good evening, Broncos country. God bless the USA. Hashtag let's go, Bo. I'm not interested in Higgins, says the Papa Bear. Injury prone. Have a great show. So we'll get to you, Sam Bam. Hang tight for just a second, big dog. Zack, let's get to that as, the main story topic of tonight that both you and I thought was kind of interesting that the fans would want to hear about. And in his Senior Bowl buzz around the league notebook, Jeremy Fowler picked up some buzz on what the market is shaping up to be for soon-to-be Cincinnati Bengals, ex-Cincinnati Bengals wide receiver T. Higgins, which is, quote, the over-under on Bengals receiver T. Higgins market is $30 million per season, and the majority of team personnel I spoke with, remember, at the Senior Bowl, rubbing shoulders, they're all there, believe he'll hit or clear the over. The lowest estimate I heard was somewhere slightly above Devontae Smith's 3-year, $75 million deal. The rest saw him breaking into the $30 million range per year based on his status as a number one caliber receiver and the number of teams desperate for pass catching help, close quote. So, Zack, what does that do for the Broncos? Does that affect their wherewithal to prioritize him as a priority free agent?
I'll quote George Payton. They always check in on every available player, every available deal, and I don't think the price tag was going to preclude that, Chad. They were going to probably speak to Higgins' representatives and see what he's looking for, if they could make a deal, just preliminary conversations. But $30 million puts him almost in the Justin Jefferson territory. And I'm a big T. Higgins fan, but he's not in that caliber of player to me. Between his injuries, what he's going to cost, and what the Broncos have to work with, I don't know that it's all that viable, Chad.
So for what it's worth, and thank you, Duchess. Love you. Michaela Parker jumping in. Thank you. After last night, just carrying all the water, she says Higgins would be too expensive, around 30 mil exactly. What are we talking about when we say his injury history? Well, he's only had technically he's never started all games in a season. But if you look at his rookie year, 14 out of 16, second year, 14 out of 16, 14 out of 16, 11 out of 12, and then this past season, 9 out of 12 games active that he started, okay? Let's see, 900 yards receiving last year, but double-digit touchdowns. He got to 10. He's a two-time 1,000-yard receiver with 2 900-yard campaigns. And then 2023, it was just rough for him. But I don't look at T. Higgins and think $30 million. That looks like $30 million. If you're the Denver Broncos, you need more than just T. Higgins anyway this year. And you got resources and you have the draft, but to me, it prices him a little bit outside the Broncos' range. As you said, Zack, George Payton will at least kick the tires. And I'm inclined to agree here with Michaela. Even though Higgins is younger and ostensibly a higher upside, I think you could get the best of both worlds by getting Chris Godwin here at a relatively cheaper contract and make it a 2-year deal and see how he does. He's got 1 year, off the top of my head, 1 year left of under 30 play, I believe, Chris Godwin.
again, as much as I love T. Higgins, he wasn't even the best receiver on his own team. That would be Jamar Chase. And I wonder, though, is T. Higgins kind of a byproduct of playing opposite Chase and playing with Joe Burrow and playing in a very high octane offense? I don't want to find out on the Broncos' dime. I don't want them to spend 25, 30 million a year for a receiver that really, as good as he is, they need more of the Jamar Chase type. They need more of the game breaker type. They have the big bodied possession, red zone threat in Cortland Sutton. And T. Higgins is better, don't get me wrong, but you need the complement to him. We're talking compliments. Scott was mentioning it. I've been on board with it. Garrett Wilson, cost control contract. Maybe you can finagle him for a second round pick, but if not a first round pick, you're still paying him a lot less than you would a T. Higgins.
Here's an idea, and then I want to grab Sam Bam. What about Cooper Kupp, who we learned not long, Zach, before we went live tonight? I'm just throwing this out there. It's part of the news cycle. Let's analyze it. He is a 31, almost 32-year-old receiver coming off his 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th season. And looks like he's on the move. Last year, 11 games he started. He missed a quarter of the season. 700 yards, though, 6 touchdowns. Imagine what he could do opposite of Cortland Sutton. But what are your thoughts on maybe trying to open the way for Cooper Kupp?
If it was Cooper Kupp from 5 years ago, I'd be all for it, but it's not. This is a guy who's going on 32 years old, Chad. He's only played in the NFL, a full NFL season twice in his career, and he has monstrous salary cap hits for 2025 and 2026. If he gets released, Cooper Kupp, let's talk on a short-term deal, maybe limited guaranteed money. He wants to come play for a contender, wants to come play for Sean Payton, whatever, but I'm not trading for him. No way, no how.
By the way, you were right, Scott. It's for some reason converted to the camera microphone. Sorry about that, guys, if I sounded a little tinny and distant. Sam Bam, brother, great to see you tonight, big dog. Thank you. One of our Mount Rushmore Super Chat superstars, like the Duchess, like the Papa Bear. Sam Bam, near and dear to our hearts. He says, evening, guys. Hope you had fun in Mobile, Chad. Go Broncos. I definitely did. It's a lot of fun watching the seniors go at it, see who's kind of separating over those 3 days, watching practice, hanging with Scott. It was a lot of fun. Run into a few people. It was fun. But I tell you, what's interesting, and Scott, you're not on camera right now, but Burning Stool, the Clemson tight end that impressed both of us. No one's talking about him, dude. Like, if you read a Nick Kendall draft article, and I'm not throwing shade at Nick or Eric Trickle, they talk about, both of them had articles today, Zach, for example, on tight end and how the Broncos, someone had a comment, hey, you don't need to put all those too many eggs in one basket relative to the whole T. Higgins thing. Fans are like hinging. A lot of Broncos fans are like hinging. Is it going to be a successful draft on whether the trio of Genty, Loveland, or Warren are going to be there at 20? And so both guys had 2 articles kind of talking about, well, what if they're not? Because they're probably not going to be there by 20. What else is out there? No one's mentioning the Clemson tight end. And I'm telling you guys, that kid is good. But yeah, Sam, a lot of fun. Thank you, bro. Great to see you.
Yeah, thank you, Sam and Chad. I found it interesting today. ESPN's Matt Miller released a 2-round mock, his latest iteration, and he had the Broncos taking Loveland at 20 and then Caleb Johnson at 51. I wouldn't be opposed to building up the war chest around Bo Nix that way.
I wouldn't either. I just don't think Loveland's going to be there. Yeah. He is, according to NFL mock draft database, the most commonly mocked player to the Broncos at number 20 as it stands. And that was information that Nick dug up in his latest article. Go give it a read, guys. So there's a reason why he's commonly being linked to the Broncos. I don't know. What do you think, Scott? You think Loveland will be there at 20? Scott's optimistic. Let's put it that way. So maybe, Zach. The Duchess jumping in again. Trade with the Jets for Garrett Wilson. You guys both, Zach, you and Scott, are a lot more amenable to the idea. If you listen, Scott's pretty pragmatic. Like, Scott's not very much of a hype guy. He tells it like it is. If it's on his mind and you ask him, you're going to get the straight dope. All right. He's not usually going to sensationalize Zach or hype. He said it's going to be probably 2 first rounds for Garrett Wilson. Is it worth it? Is it worth it? would you give that up?
No, not 2 first-round picks. I would entertain a first-round draft pick for Garrett Wilson. Maybe the Broncos get a late-round pick in return. Because, again, like Scott was saying, like I've said before, if you're honed in on taking a receiver in the first round, there's no receiver in this draft class that is as good as Garrett Wilson. You'd be getting a proven commodity. You'd be getting someone that's produced at the NFL level, despite his quarterback play, despite the chaos around him. I am a big Garrett Wilson fan, and I feel like his skill set, maybe more so than a T. Higgins or a Cooper Kupp at 32 years old, would perfectly complement Courtland Sutton and the rest of the Broncos' offensive pieces.
We got to take care of some matters of business, but first, happy birthday, David Youngkin. Hope you have you've had a great day. I would sing to you the song, and we'd make ourselves a nice little MHH chorus here, but that particular tune is copyrighted. Even if you sing a rendition of it, you'll get copyright claimed on YouTube. So happy birthday, big dog.
Happy birthday.
I'm glad you mentioned it. You're getting some props in the chat from people who saw you, like from Pearl and Michaela giving you HBDs. Happy birthday. So good for you, big dog. But guys, listen up. All right. We got the big game coming up this weekend, and the best app for your big game party, well, guess what? It's actually on your phone, and it's called Underdog. Underdog is the best place to cash in on all your takes during the big game. Which players are going to go off? Which ones are ice cold? Make your entries in just a few taps.
And with their pick'em game, you can win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on player stats like passing yards, touchdowns, interceptions, and much more. They've got all your favorite leagues, teams, and stars to choose from. Create entries with all football picks or mix and match across your other favorite sports. Underdog is the only pick'em platform that puts the power to cash out in your hands. Now you can either keep riding with your entry or tap the win now button to cash out whenever you please.
Seriously, guys, I have had so much fun since I came across Underdog, playing Underdog. So download the Underdog app today. Use code MHuddle to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Again, download the Underdog app today. Use our code MHuddle. Get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly.
Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY.
All right. We've got the GLP in the house. Another one of our Mount Rushmore Super Chat superstars, Gary Palmer. What's good, big dog? He says, Chad and Zach, you're the best. Bo leave.
Thank you,
Broncos.
Gary.
You're the best, Gary. You know this, big dog. Thank you, pal. Great to see you tonight. Hope you're doing well down there in the desert, my friend. And thank you for the support. The birthday boy himself, David Youngkin, jumping in with a super. Thank you, bro. He says, Wilson, I think, we're talking Garrett Wilson, would cost at least a first and a third, in my opinion. Get Godwin for 1 or 2 years and build in the draft. I think Sean Payton and Bo Nix could make a redonkulous amount of hay with Chris Godwin. Not that they couldn't with Wilson, but when you think about cost relative to impact, I kind of like the Godwin approach a little bit more. It suits my, I don't know. As I mentioned before, I'm a little bit conservative when it comes to trading. And part of that might be, Zach, the recency bias / trauma of being first round deprived since the Russ thing. But I like the idea of Godwin.
Yeah, not my first choice. He's a little older than Garrett Wilson. He played in all 17 games in 2023. Before that, Chad, he missed games in 22, 21, 20, 19. He finally played full seasons in 18 and 17. That last injury kind of scares me. It looked a little career threatening. It was pretty devastating. And I wonder, is he going to bring more to the offense? Like, you have a field stretcher already in Courtland Sutton. If you brought Godwin in, it's kind of the same skill set. Again, I just want that peanut butter to the jelly. I don't want just a peanut butter sandwich.
Yeah, what was it? Was it a hip? I think, or Achilles. I'm trying to remember what the injury was, but it's a fair concern, especially especially when you consider his relative age. Now I'm going to pull him up on Wiki real fast. So,
About to turn
28.
29 in like a month.
He's going to turn 29. So this is the last year any team will get him under 30. And the injury, I'm just going to, let's see, suffered a left ankle injury late in the fourth, required being carted off. Confirmed Zach to be an ankle dislocation. Underwent surgery, caused him to miss the remainder of the season. That was in week 7 for what it's worth. So, yeah, it's a concern. One of the things I like about it, though, is kind of unfortunate timing for him, but it might make his contract ask a little bit more reasonable than it would have had he not suffered the injury before he hit free agency.
Yeah, absolutely. If the Broncos want to try to penny pinch a little bit, I would like Godwin on a short-term deal more so than Cooper Kupp on a short-term deal. If Cooper Kupp were to be released, at least there's some upside there, and he would give Bo Nix a safety blanket. But again, just not my first preference for the Broncos to go shopping at wide receiver.
The other thing I think about, and Scott gives me a lot to balance out some of these maybe irrational, slightly more irrational takes or stances, whatever, is I go, okay, George Paton arrives. First offseason as GM was following the 2020 season. So 2021, he gets a first-round pick. What does he do with it? Drafts a foundational guy. Granted, it was a top 10 pick, but he gets Pat Surtain. And then he doesn't get a first-rounder in 22, doesn't get one in 23, gets one in 24, and it was a layup. I mean, you're going to take Bo Nix at 12 if you're a quarterback-hungry team. They did. Another foundational guy. So that just makes me want to see George. And plus, he's done so well with mid-round picks, even some late-round picks. Like, he's been a quite successful and prolific draft artist. I want to see more of what he can do. I want to see him paint that mosaic, mile-high mosaic. Let's go in the draft.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly that school of thinking, and I can't say I disagree all that much, Chad. George Paton happens to be a fantastic drafter. I don't think he gets the credit in Broncos country he really deserves for that, and he knocked it out of the park with PS2. Him and Sean Payton both killed it with Bo Nix. I could definitely see why you'd be reticent on trading a first-rounder for a receiver.
Let's see what oh, and by the way, we've got another little piece of news we got to get to here in a second. It's not exactly Bronco related, but it's something to consider if you're the Broncos. Taylor, and this is what it was. Myles Garrett requesting a trade officially out of Cleveland this morning. Taylor, thank you for the super chat, bro. He says no to Myles Garrett. He has the worst play in NFL history, hands down. No room for that. I rather trade up for Travis Hunter. You guys are awesome. Keep it up. Thank you, buddy. Well, I mean, Zach, the Broncos aren't. First of all, you finish as the NFL leader in sacks. You have 2 edge defenders in double digits, finishing with double digit sacks. And granted, even Benito, Zach, let's just say what we saw from Benito in 2024 is the new status quo. Like, he turned a corner. This is what you can rely on from him moving forward. He's still not the consistent force as a pass rusher that Garrett is, nor is he as stout against the run, obviously, as Garrett. But it's not far enough apart, in my opinion. The gap's not big enough between what the Broncos already have at the edge and what Garrett could bring to the table to justify, I mean, what I'm seeing today, a couple of firsts, throwing a second. I mean, people are going to, if the Browns capitulate and shop him, it's going to be a king's ransom, Zach.
Yeah, plus you're taking on his contract. Same thing with, Cooper Kupp, for example. And it's not a position of need for Denver. It simply isn't. You mentioned the starters. They had good production from Jonah Ellis. They had good production from Dondre Tillman. Give VJ credit. He got a lot out of that unit. Also up front, you paid Zach Allen big money. You brought in JFM who can get after the passer. They don't need a Myles Garrett, and I don't think they're a Myles Garrett away from winning a Super Bowl. There are multiple pieces, and they should allocate those resources appropriately.
By the way, Taylor, of course, is talking about the swinging of the helmet that Garrett was involved with. I'm trying to remember who was the
Mason Rudolph.
Yeah, the Oklahoma State kid is who I was going to say. Yes, that was an ugly moment for the NFL. Phil McLaughlin, bro, so good to see you. Thank you for the stars. He says, good evening, Chad, Zach, and Deacon Scott. There are some good prospects for me at tight end. What do you guys think about Brenningstool, Arroyo, and Fanning? Like them all, saw them all last week in Mobile. And honestly, Arroyo just looks the part. But Brenningstool is really interesting. Really interesting. Fanning, I'll admit, I didn't pop as much to me in the Senior Bowl. I'm not saying he's not as good as either of these guys. Okay, I'm just saying in the Senior Bowl practices and watching him in drills and how he works and all that, those other two guys popped significantly, in my opinion. But all three are on the table as, day two guys. I'd be really curious to see how Brenningstool's stock, what it does between now and after the combine and where he ends up falling. But this is why you don't need to panic about the first round. If Genty's not there, if Loveland's not there, if Warren's not there, you don't need to lose any sleep. Like Eric Trickle's, Zach, post-Senior Bowl mock draft, in which he only drafted guys that were either at the Shrine Game or the Senior Bowl. It's kind of a fun exercise for him. So it's not a normal, traditional mock, but he had the Broncos taking Gray Zabel, the North Dakota State phenom that won the basically practice player of the week at the Senior Bowl, helped himself quite a lot. He took him at 20. I would be okay with that. It would disappoint a lot of fans, Zach, in the beginning. It's not a sexy pick, never is, taking an interior offensive lineman in the first round, even that late. But guys, this draft class is so deep at tight end, running back, and receiver that plays it perfectly, Zach, into the Broncos' hands.
Exactly. It coincides very nicely. And these are the plan C, D, and E here. If you don't get Tyler Warren, you don't get Loveland, you can wait until the middle rounds. I was impressed by what I saw of Arroyo, especially as a pass catcher during Senior Bowl practices, watching him on tape. He's very fluid in his movement. And I don't know about his inline blocking ability, but him as a weapon for Bo Nix, maybe a safety blanket down the seam, I can get on board with that in the later rounds, Chad.
I was actually quite surprised at how well he was a real try-hard, Arroyo, as a blocker. So you give him some pro coaching, and I think he might be able to improve pretty steadily. David jumping in again. Thank you, birthday boy. He says Sean Payton did pretty good with young receivers. So keep our draft picks, since this is our first draft that we have all our picks number 11, 6, 12. Oh, wait, hashtag 11, 6, 12, 5. Yeah. So we don't quite have them all. We don't have a fifth and we don't have a seventh off the top of my head. But we do have 3 6s. And so you got a 1, 2, 3, 4, no 5, 3 6s. It's basically still a nearly full complement, Zach, of draft picks. And knowing Peyton, I wouldn't be surprised if he finds a way to add 1 or 2 here or there. We'll see.
Exactly.
He'll trade on draft day. But this is such a deep class at these need positions. It wouldn't surprise me, Zach, if the Broncos spent in free agency on linebacker and safety, and then use the draft to fill these offensive weapon holes. But that's definitely a priority. Hashtag build a nest.
You also have the undrafted ranks, which the Broncos historically have always killed, especially under George Paton, to where you can find a starter or a solid contributor. It's like you said earlier, this class is so deep at certain areas the Broncos need that there's going to be talent just trickling down the board.
Eric Flynn, what's up, bro? Great to see you 2 nights in a row. Love that, my friend. Thank you for the star support. Means the world to us, big dog. I also see Clayton, a longtime supporter, saying, hey, guys, smash the like button. Yes, indeed. Thank you, pal. Man, young and hungry is very dangerous. Yeah, that's a Sean Payton ism. Young and hungry can be very dangerous. It didn't quite pan out the way he hoped in the draft in the playoffs, Zach, right before he made that statement. But they are young, they are hungry, and they got a taste of the tournament. It's going to be fun to see how this team coalesces this year, which is why, it's like I was talking about yesterday, seeing a good swath of Broncos country kind of disengage, whether it's after the playoff loss, whether it's Chiefs fatigue, general NFL fatigue. I don't know what it is. I don't know why, because, man, this is the most think about how stoked we were, even with everything going on, Zach, around the world in 2020, because in that moment, it felt like in that offseason, I'm talking, we finally found a quarterback for post-Payton. At least it looked like that, because Drew Lock played the last 5 games and went 4-1 or whatever it was. And we were stoked. And I think the whole pandemic thing did help bring us all together and give us something to focus on. But this is even better because you had a rookie with a sample size that you could really hang your hat on. He started every single game, had a historic season, won 10, and you made the playoffs. Man, the fan in me is like, dude, this is the most important offseason since MHH existed. Let's go. Let's go.
See, that's my thing too, is like Sean Payton took this team to the playoffs. He won double-digit games. He did it with a rookie quarterback, and that rookie quarterback had no running game to speak of, Chad, the entire season. He had no number 2 receiver, elite receiver, or elite weaponry for that matter outside of Cortland Sutton. So it's really tantalizing to think what Bo Nix and company can do in year 2 when they improve that supporting cast. There's a lot of reason for optimism right now.
And not only that, but just the developmental curve, how quickly Peyton was able to microwave that with Bo Nix. I mean, from basically October on, and even knowing that he had a back thing going on,
True.
It's quite a quantum leap. You think about those first 2-3 games, 4 games really, even the Tampa game where he started to kind of break through a little, and then juxtapose those first 4 with the last 4, and it's almost a different quarterback. Like, that's how quickly quantum leap he's developing. So that alone, even if Zach, they didn't change one whit of personnel on the offensive side, you're going to see this offense take even greater steps forward in 2025, just because Bo Nix, he is the truth, but you actually add those pieces that you could use some help on. And oh baby, that's why I don't understand. And by the way, George, sorry we missed you last night, big dog. I told you I'd make it up to you tonight. Thank you, brother. We love you. We appreciate you. Every once in a while, we're going to miss one, but it's great to see you tonight.
If we could transport our current physical selves back to that week 2 game at Empower Field against the Steelers, we wouldn't recognize the quarterback that Bo Nix was that day, Chad. It's a night and freaking day. No question about it. He's on the ascension. They talk about his age being, advanced in the NFL, but he looked pretty damn good for a rookie. It's tough to play in this league, and he played pretty well. He's only going to get better in 2025. That's the exciting part to me.
So true, dude. So true. I'm just checking to see. Oh, by the way, Clayton, yeah, you throwing down some stars. Awesome. I'm trying to find William James Baker, but anyway, yeah, dude, so much to be excited about this year, and we're happy to be covering it every step of the way with you guys. You know what we do at MHH in the off season, man. We will find every little sliver of news, rumors, and we'll bring it to your attention and try and make it as interesting and fun and compelling of an off season as we possibly can. People like my dad, when I first started doing this, Zach, and they're like, so what do you do when the season ends? You just kind of like hang them up, wait till I'm like, no, dude.
It's a misconception.
That's when the fun starts, baby. Let's go. And Senior Bowl last week, that was fun hanging with Scott. I brought back a little what do you call it, the Alabama plague. I brought that back with me, but I'll survive it. And then Zach and I were hitting the combine together for the first time since, was it 2019 that we went, I think. So it is going to be a guess. Okay. William, right here, guys. Good to see you, pal. What's happening? Can I ask, is there any free agent players that you would prioritize across the pond? And even if we didn't already know, Zach, that William James Baker is United Kingdom, see how he spelled prioritize with an S? That's not a misspelling. That's how they don't use Z in that same sense. This I know because I have copy edited 1 trillion Keith Cummings articles, and that's how he spells things like that. But what do you think? What's your answer here for William?
Man, there's really no one. We talked about T. Higgins that screams out to me on the open market that the Broncos have to throw big money at or have to pursue. One guy that come to mind immediately would be Zach Bond, the linebacker from the Eagles. I just don't know, Chad, if Philly is going to let him get away. I think he's earned a major bag, and that would be my target, though, because that's a position of need, and if you take care of that, you don't have to prioritize inside linebacker in the draft.
Fair point. And by the way, I just popped over onto the Instagram stream, and David, you're getting happy birthdays from Rodney over there and others. So hope you're enjoying your special night, big dog. But I'm with you on that. Let's see what Pearl says here. Do you think the Broncos will trade down? Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me, and it might be smart with how deep this draft class is, Zach. Like, if you can, it might be the smartest play this time around. Like, normally I'm going, hey, first round pick, but dude, there's this receiver class, tight ends, running backs. There's some good interior O linemen. This is one of those drafts where stockpiling picks could really come out in the wash long term for a young and hungry team like the Broncos.
I don't know that they would trade down in the first if Genty or Warren's on the board, but if Loveland's there and that's their guy and they think he would be there at 22 or 23 or whatever, then yeah, absolutely. I could see George Paton exploring that. But he's known more so, Chad, for making the trades in like this day 2, second round, third round, moving up, moving down. Though I do at one point, considering the Broncos don't have a 5th, I do think Paton will make a move to pick up at least a 5th.
Look who it is, dude. I was just thinking about this cat because I saw him like liking or something, like a Bridge the Gap post on Facebook. I'm like, Naj, what's up, bro? Mount Rushmore legend right here. Great to see you, bro. He says, hey, brothers, hope all is well. Taking time away from football after the playoff loss. See, it's a common thing, but hopeful for the future. Let's focus on running back, inside linebacker, and safety. Be well. Pardon me. Be well, my bros. Zach, grab this. I'll chip in. I'll come in at the end, but I got to mute real quick.
Yeah, I got you. Naj also added that end tight end. Absolutely. Because those are by far the biggest needs. He threw tight end in there. And I really can't say I disagree. We all know about the Bo Nix and helping him out, but we talked about this on the solo show Thursday, Chad, is that you can't overlook how bad the Broncos were on defense. In the middle of that defense, you need 2 new starting inside linebackers with Sternad and Barton, both free agents. I'm not putting all my eggs in the Alex Singleton basket, coming off a major injury at 31 years old. So you need 2 there. You need also a safety to start in place of PJ Locke opposite Brandon Jones. So yeah, absolutely, Naj. I cannot say I disagree with anything you said there. Be well as well.
And again, bro, thank you. And again, with how deep the draft class is at some of the, sexier positions that we all know are need positions, receiver, tight end, running back, spend on linebacker and safety, maybe grab a veteran back if there's something reasonable that modestly upgrades the room. Your thought?
I just occurred to me, I couldn't think of a player to name that the Broncos should go after. Hufanga, who I wrote about, that was named, an ideal landing spot the Broncos were for his services. Safety, formerly of the Niners, Chad. He's a playmaker when he's on the field. Unfortunately, he's been dealing with injuries the last couple of years, but there is a guy I would take a flyer on. You shore up a starting position, and it's one less dart you have to throw on draft night.
Well said. Naj, we're glad that at least tonight you came back to the campfire, bro. We're always going to have it blazing for you. You know this, big dog. Great to see you. Thank you for the – and he says, and tight end, by the way. Yes, amen to that. Nick, the quickest way to my heart is bring up Bridge the Gap. Brothers is freaking bop. Thank you, pal. And he also says, and then we're going to grab Leroy has a question. I want to grab Leroy. Says, hey, Chad and Zach, any updates on the special teams, coaching? Much love, MHH for life. Nothing other than what we covered last night. So in case you missed it, Darren Rizzi went from factor could land in Denver to the insiders saying once this whole Kellen Moore thing gets resolved post Super Bowl and the Saints officially hire him as head coach, you'll see the dominoes quickly fall with Rizzi signing in Denver as the special teams coordinator. But Zach, till it's done, it ain't done, because Kellen Moore could hire on and say, no, we don't want to release you from your contract. In fact, here's a little something to stick around and stay on as my assistant head coach, which is what he served as. So it's not a guarantee, but it's all the signs are pointing Darren Rizzi.
Yeah, and usually first-time head coaches like to have someone experienced on staff, a former head coach, for example. So it's a possibility he stays in New Orleans, but all signs are pointing to the Broncos making him Ben Kotwica's successor. And they have multiple other spots they have to fill on the coaching staff, too, that we've heard very little of. Passing game coordinator, tight ends coach, also assistant general manager, and inside linebackers coach with Greg Minuski departing.
Yeah, quite a few coaching holes to fill. And so an interesting read. Kind of surprised me. A few of the names that he threw out I didn't even think about, but Tom Hall, of the Mile High Insiders podcast had an article a couple days ago over the weekend, I'll say, covering some options, both internal and external, to fill the 5 coaching vacancies that have been created by outside teams swooping in and trying to capitalize on the coaching staff that Sean Payton built. Leroy, what's up, brother? Says, what's up, Priest? Mile High Salute question. If we draft a defensive lineman at 20 instead of, say, a tight end, who would you pick in the second round? Running back, tight end, or a DB? I wouldn't pick a DB probably. But there are a lot of options for running backs in round 2, Zach. Do you have any specifics for them? And then I'll give a few specifics.
I'm not going defense the first 2 rounds. Absolutely not. I don't care how the board lines up. Running back, I do like Caleb Johnson a lot at 51. That's who ESPN mocked to the Broncos. I also like Travion Henderson at 51, though I don't know if he's going to be there at that point. But it's however, the big board, however the Broncos kind of calculate that, Leroy. I'm definitely in this scenario, though, going best available of running back or tight end.
But you know what? Even if he doesn't end up rising all the way up to a day 2, Jarquez Hunter, dude, Auburn, I'm telling you right now, okay? If he's there with the 4th round pick, I'm taking him. I'm not even thinking twice, dude. What'd he say? Yeah, he's a guy who'll go in the 5th round, play in the NFL for 12 years. Don't you want one of those guys? But if you're keeping it specifically, Leroy, 2nd round, let me float a few names for you. This was a great article from Eric Trickle today, which is basically, can the Broncos afford to miss out on the big 3? We all know the names, running back and tight ends, and options in round 1. And to illustrate the depth of this class at running back, after Genty, I'm going to quote Eric here. After Genty, you have Omarion Hampton of UNC, Cam Scatterbo, Arizona State. You mentioned Travion Henderson, Zach, Ohio State, Dylan Sampson, Tennessee, Caleb Johnson, Iowa, Quinshawn Judkins, Ohio State, Devin Neal, Kansas, RJ Harvey, UCF, DJ Giddens, Kansas State, Damian Martinez, Miami, all viewed as options in the 2nd or 3rd round, with a couple of them potentially rising to the 1st round conversation, close quote from Eric. And I co-sign all those. We got to see Devin Neal at the Senior Bowl. Honestly, the most impressive guy to me, and maybe it was the amorous view from my partner there while we were there. Scott Kennedy loves him some Jarquez, but man, whoever he lands with, he won't. I don't think he's fast enough, Zach, to be like a top 60 pick. He's not going to be a round 1, round 2 guy. I'll be really interested when we're at the combine to see how he tests. Because if the speed is there, like if he can show that he's got some speed to him, then he will climb. He is that complete of a back, dude. So anyway, great question, Leroy. Hope we gave you a solid answer, big dog.
Yeah, Dylan Sampson is another one that I like a lot. And that's kind of the point that we're making, and we will make until April, is that if they don't get a running back in round 1, they can get him in round 2. They can get him in round 3. They can get him in round 4. They can go down around 7 or round 6 in their case if they have to, and still get what would most likely be an upgrade on the incumbent running backs in Denver.
T. Higgins personal account, Ernie Mays, thank you for your support. What's Big Ern saying? I don't even know. But I didn't know we had T. Higgins' personal account in the Facebook chat. But okay, let me grab this one here, Zach, from I just passed it over. William again. Do you think they should go for Henry from the Patriots? Salary is so cheap, and he's a solid tight end. Zach, you're kind of open to it.
I mean, is he an upgrade on Adam Troutman, Nate Adkins, and Lucas Krull? Probably, but I wouldn't, if they acquired Hunter Henry, that wouldn't preclude me, and I hope it wouldn't preclude the Broncos from still taking Loveland in round 1 or Tyler Warren in round 1. They still need more of a blue chipper, and I don't think Hunter Henry's that guy.
I gotta concur here with Glenn. Good afternoon, Chad, Zach, Deacon Scott, Broncos country. We should let George Payton do his magic in the draft, especially given the crop at positions of need. Hashtag let's bow, hashtag state of being. Well said, big dog. Well said. And hey, even again, a trade back in this class, guys, you shouldn't hate that. it might kind of feel like a coitus interruptus in the moment, but you just hold on tight. You grit your teeth. It'll be worth it because, oh, baby, there are some players to be had in this class and all at the positions Broncos most desperately need. I'm not quite, Zach, as familiar with the safety class. I'll get learned up on that. But, safety, linebacker, you handle that in free agency and go make the draft. Find an interior offensive lineman, maybe Gray Zabels. I think I asked you this earlier yesterday, Scott, but Gray Zabels, he there at 20, you think, like in Eric's mock draft? I don't know, dude. That's a tough one, but I wouldn't hate it because, Zach, you could get your center for the next 4 years at least, and then still have your cake and eat it too. Tight end in round 2, running back round 2. I mean, there's a kaleidoscope of options.
Yeah, Nick Emenwari at safety is one that is rocketing up the mock drafts right now, and he should be there at 20 if the Broncos want him. Wouldn't be my first choice, but my point was going to be that if they stay put, which looks like George Paton historically will do at 20, they're guaranteed to get a good player. They're guaranteed to get a stud at a position that will help their team out, either make the offense better or take that elite defense to a new level.
By the way, Scott doing some research for us. Hunter Henry would not come cheap. $6.7 million base for what it's worth.
Mm-hmm.
So
draft one.
Yeah, draft one. And Chase, isn't Chris Godwin a bona fide Z or slot? Wouldn't that be different than Sutton? I think he is more of a twitchy, explosive. Their Cortland Sutton was Mike Evans and is Mike Evans, right? I think what Zach's saying, I'll let you speak for yourself, Zach, is just that he, from his actual skill set perspective, what more does he give, in your opinion, than Cortland Sutton?
He's a little more explosive, though. I don't know how much more now after the ankle injury. I guess they're comparable but different players in a way. I take it back to the Bengals example where T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. You have your T. Higgins, maybe a poor man's T. Higgins, but go out and get your Jamar Chase. Go out and get your Garrett Wilson, please.
Okay, guys, we're at about 42 minutes. Consider this the 2-minute warning for any burning topics, questions, supers. We'll get to them before we dip. Shout out to Patrick. Hope you're doing well, big dog. Great to see you in the chat this evening. Okay, let me get down to the bottom here. No. It's all good, though. It's all good, William. Now you know. That's why you come here, big dog. All good. Okay. Zach, let's take care of some end of show business. We're not done. Don't anybody leave. There's a few other things I want to talk about. We'll take care of this, get to a few things, but this is your 2-minute warning, so to speak.
Tremendous episode, as always, of the Mile High Huddle podcast. If you're not doing so, please follow us on X at the MHH pod. You can follow the main account on X at Mile High Huddle. Chad at Chad and Jensen, myself at Kelberman NFL, and don't forget about Scott, our producer, at Scout Kennedy. If you guys want some merch like we're rocking each and every single podcast, check out mhhmerch.com. Get you some. If you haven't done so yet, please drop us a like at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. You can follow us on Instagram at mile_high_huddle. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure you're leaving your football priest a 5-star review for a chance to win some merch each and every single month. But if anything, please subscribe, like, and share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. It really helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans just like you.
We've got Ren jumping in. Great to see you. 11th hour super chat.
Thank you, Ren.
Appreciate you, big dog, helping us keep the lights on. Yeah. Says, so Cooper Kupp being traded from the Rams. I may be a little late to the party here, but depending on what they want for Kupp, wouldn't be a bad idea to have him in Denver, maybe? Thoughts? Well, Zach, I think his skill set, I think Bo Nix could make a lot of hay with him, but it's the cost comes into play, cost relative to return. And you had some pretty solid thoughts on that. So break it down for Ren.
It's not a lack of talent. I mean, even at, what is he going to be, 32 or whatever, he still has a year or two of pretty high-end production. It's just, there's two scenarios of acquiring him from the Rams in a trade. It's either you give up a first-round pick and they eat some of his massive salary cap hit, or you give up a middle-round pick and take on all of that contract. I don't like either scenario for the Broncos. That's why I said earlier, if he's cut, let's talk. Short-term, couple-year deal, whatever, but I'm not trading for him at his current salary.
I mean, you're going to give up a first-round pick. Look, 2021, when he set those records, 145 receptions, 1,947 receiving yards.
That's a long time ago.
It's already a long time ago. His teeth grow longer by the second. He's whatever, 32, going to be 32 by the time the season starts. All right. So he's entering, as Zach likes to say it, and as I like to say it, his age. It's the most illustrative way to say it. He's entering, you could say, oh, it's his 9th year. He's entering his age 32 season, and he only appeared he started only 11 of 17 games last year, 12 of 17 the year prior, 9 of 17 the year prior, and you're going to give up a first-round pick for him? I don't think so. I don't think the Rams, Zach, get a first-round pick out of Cooper Kupp unless it's just some team out there that's completely bedazzled by the name cachet. But if there were concessions to be made on the part of the Rams, they eat some of that contract, they're willing to move him for a third, something like that, I would totally be down to see him in Denver, because I know Sean Payton and Bo Nix could make a lot of hay. But the one thing that is kind of the X factor here is all it takes is a coach that is like in love with Cooper Kupp, that goes like, oh my goodness, I can imagine fairies dancing. I can see how it's all going to work. Boom, here's your first round pick. I just don't think they'll end up getting it, Zach, for what it's worth.
Yeah, I'm going to say this a lot about available players between now and the draft and free agency. If they make a play for Cooper Kupp, Chad, I don't want it to take them out of the wide receiver consideration in the draft. You would have to start planning for life after Cooper Kupp. You'd have to be planning for life with Cooper Kupp, considering how unreliable he's been with his injuries. So kick the tires, check in on what it would cost, but I'm not wild about the idea of taking on that salary for an unreliable older player.
From Mr. Producer, his salary is okay, 12.5 and 14.5 million, but he's also missed at least 5 games in each of the last 3 years. And he also has a $7.5 million roster bonus coming up. So it is more expensive. You want to put those eggs in a 32-year-old, age 32 season basket? Maybe not. But if the Rams are willing to, make a deal in terms of being realistic about what he's actually worth, maybe. We shall see. But guys, I'm seeing some no Ronk tonight. Thanks for the reminder, Glenn. Shout out Chad and Zach Scott for another great MHH pod. Thank you, pal. And of course, anytime Ronk's not in the chat, we feel his absence. He'll be back. That's for sure. Water's wet, sky's blue. Ronk will be back. Let not your hearts be troubled. But I'm seeing some conversations. David saying, "Hey, I never had a Facebook," and Naj saying, "Damn Facebook and the algos." And it's MHH has felt it pretty hard. About a year and a half ago, they changed their algorithm. But last night, guys, I'm just going to show you this. It's really easy before we dip on out of here. We told you that even if you listen on YouTube, you watch on YouTube, but you like reading the articles, make sure you're following MHH on Facebook, because that's where all the articles start out, okay? And here's what you do. You got to make it a favorite in order to see it in your feed. So you click right in the same spot where you've hit like. So it already shows that if you're following us, which you are, it'll already show that you've liked it. So you click liked as if you're going to unlike, and it opens up this option. You could unfollow all that stuff, right? But what you're going to do is click it, add it as a favorite, update, bam. Then you will see everything in your feed, the articles. You'll get notified when we're going live. That's how you ensure you miss nothing on Facebook. And we need all the help we can get in that department right now. Trust, guys, with the weird algorithmic shifts and stuff. So that's your call to action. If you want to help your football priests, we'd really appreciate that. But tonight, Mile High Salute. Shout out to the great Super Chat superstars and supporters helping us, like the Papa Bear before we even went live, Sam Bam before we even went live, the Duchess 3 times. Boom, boom. Michaela Parker, love you. The GLP, the birthday boy, David Youngkin, a couple times. Phil McLaughlin down in Tucson. Taylor Christensen, Mount Rushmore. And look who it is. Speaking of Mount Rushmore.
Damn.
Oh.
D-Dub in the house. You love it, dude.
Thank you,
Great to
Dale.
see you. We had a little bit of a I was kind of overwhelmed, and then I started not feeling so hot. But we had a little bit of a text exchange while I was toward the tail end of my time in Mobile. But here's Dale with a very generous super chat. He says, the draft is so deep at tight end and running back, I wouldn't mind the team trading down and getting another third. Modesty in free agency, but build through the draft this year. If we got Loveland, Caleb, and Tez in rounds 1 through 3, that would be awesome. Yeah, I think Tez, we'll see how he does at the combine and all that stuff. But Tez, I went from being, Zach, I talked about this last night, being quite dismissive of him as a bona fide like Broncos target beyond the fact that he's Bo Nix's brother, to being very interested by him, seeing what he did at the Senior Bowl. But well said, D-Dub. Zach, your thoughts for Dale the Legend.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dale, as usual, for blessing us on our podcast this evening. I don't know that they're going to triple dip on offense, as you said here, but I'd be really, really happy if their first 2 picks were, as ESPN predicted, Loveland and Caleb in rounds 1 and 2.
Hats off to the D-Dub. You're getting the dome effect, my dog.
Thank you, Dale.
Hats off to you, my brother. Thank you for a very generous number 2 super chat. Just because, he says, good to make it. Always, always stoked to have D-Dub in the house. And he always has wisdom to impart. So thank you for sharing that with us, brother. And I'm sorry to say we're dipping out of here, but we're about out of time. But it's so good to see you. Lots of good content and conversation earlier in the show. So hopefully you can check that out. But love you, bro. Great to see you. We also got a shout out as we're dipping on out of here. As I mentioned, Taylor, Eric Flynn, Naj coming back to the campfire like the brother that he is, and Ren 99. Love you guys so much. And D-Dub, can't wait to see you again on Thursday when Zach and I return to the microphone. It's going to be a gas. Have a great week, everybody.
That's right. Have a great rest of your Monday. We will see you Thursday night. Take care. And as always, go Broncos.